I never believed the road could swallow a man whole. Sure, I'd heard truck stop legends, seen late-night news flashes about missing hikers or abandoned vehicles found on some forgotten interstate. But those were stories people whispered over coffee or beer when the night stretched too long. I never thought I'd be the one carried into the myth myself. This is my story, the way it happened to me. A simple road trip across America that bent into something twisted, something incomprehensible. I don't know why I survived long enough to tell you this. Maybe the road wants its tale carried forward. Friends, you enjoy listening to stories, but you don't subscribe to the channel or like the videos. I request you to please subscribe to the channel right now so that I get more motivation to bring you even more stories. If you help me reach 1,000 subscribers, I promise to bring you extremely scary stories with a truly real feel. 2 horror stories every single day. So go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and now let's move on to today's story. I was 26 then, broke but free, living out of Chicago. My best friend, Mark, had convinced me we should take a road trip to clear our heads. His words, "Man, let's just drive. No plans, no rules. Open road, wild America, just like the movies." We had a rusty black 2006 Chevy Impala with a cracked windshield that reflected the sun like shattered glass. The odometer looked like it might quit before we left Illinois, but somehow we trusted that car like it was part of fate. Our first plan was no plan, just west. Endless highways, desert sunsets, motels that smelled of bleach and despair. We figured California would be the final stop after maybe 3 weeks, a trip to say, yeah, we saw the real America. But America saw us first. It started in Iowa. We'd taken Route 30, avoiding the interstate because Mark wanted the scenic route. Somewhere after midnight, while I was driving and he slept, something strange happened. The gas tank needle dipped closer to E. The horizon stretched dark, without a town in sight, just darkness, except a faint glow ahead. A neon sign flickered. I pulled off at a gas station that shouldn't have been there. It wasn't on GPS, or even on the tattered paper map Mark swore by. Just a single pump, old metal rusted in the moonlight, and a shack of a shop buzzing with faint yellow light. When I stepped out, the air smelled wrong, like wet iron. A man came out, tall, gaunt, with skin too pale and stretched over his cheekbones. His voice was polite, almost rehearsed. "You boys traveling far?" I nodded, trying to smile. "California." Something in his grin twitched, the kind of grin that doesn't belong to a person but to an echo. He said, "Plenty of roads out there. Not all of them end." I laughed nervously, told him to fill it up. But when I glanced into the shop through the grimy window, I froze. In there, behind the counter, sat 3 other men, not standing, just sitting. Identical pale faces, motionless, as though they had been arranged there. Mark woke up as I got back into the car. "What's up? You look sick." "Nothing," I muttered. "Just tired." But when I checked the receipt later, there was no business name, no address, just the word return. By the time we reached Nevada, the air felt different, like we had been underwater for days and only just surfaced. We stopped at a roadside motel outside Ely. It was one of those single-floor places with peeling turquoise paint, a humming neon vacancy sign with letters burned out. The woman at the desk looked like she hadn't blinked in years. "Room 6, she said, without checking anything, almost like she had been waiting. The room smelled of mildew and smoke. Mark laughed at how bad it was, turned on the TV, just static. But when I looked in the bathroom mirror, I swore I didn't see my own reflection move right. My head tilted seconds slower than my body. I ignored it. We drank some cheap whiskey and fell asleep. At 3:07 a.m., I woke to Mark screaming. I turned and saw him sitting upright on the bed, both eyes open wide but rolled white. His mouth stretched further than I thought possible, like silent screaming tearing at his jaw. I shook him. "Mark, wake the hell up!" Suddenly silence. His eyes rolled forward and he blinked like nothing happened. What's wrong, man? You were screaming, your face." He frowned. "I was just dreaming." But I swear the sound of his scream still echoed in that stale room, replaying like the static from the dead TV. By morning, the motel looked different, fresher, newer. The peeling paint was gone. The neon vacancy sign glowed bright and whole. That woman behind the desk? Younger, smiling. We left without speaking of it, but Mark kept scratching at his neck that day. A small red mark had appeared there, like a finger had pressed too hard in the night. Crossing Utah, something worse began. The car radio started whispering. Not music, not static, whispers. At first I thought we'd tuned into some bizarre late-night program, but then I realized it was saying our names. Jacob, Mark, repeated, soft and slow. "What are you talking about?" Mark asked. "There is no whispering going on. Look, I can tune into news right now or music. You just need to rest, man. You've been super tired these past few days." But he couldn't hear it. Yet I could. Those dead whispers, slowly but surely, twisted my mind.
We pulled over in the middle of nowhere, desert stretching miles under a heavy moon. No towns, no towers, no reason for a signal. Yet the radio hummed, words spilling again. "You're on the wrong road. Don't let it take you." Mark turned it off, his hands trembling. For the next miles we drove in silence. But the moment we crossed into Arizona, the whispers returned. This time, not through the speakers, through the rear seat. We were alone in the car. Alone. But I swear to God, something breathed back there. Route 89, endless, empty. We had been driving for hours and the gas gauge hadn't moved. That's when Mark asked the question neither of us wanted to ask. "Dude, have we seen this stretch before?" I looked outside, the same cactus on the right shoulder, the same rock formation looming in the distance. It had passed 3 times now. Time no longer made sense. Sun dipped, rose, dipped again, and we were still there. Same stretch of road, like we were trapped on a loop of highway. We stopped the car, desperate. We walked off into the desert for half an hour. When we returned, the car was gone. Instead, sitting where it had been, was a gas pump. Old, rusted, like the one from Iowa. The handle dripped something black. We ran. We never figured out how we made it across the Arizona line. One moment we were stumbling in the desert under the black sky, and the next we saw city lights glittering on the horizon. Civilization, salvation. Or so we thought. The city turned out to be a town with no name. No billboards, no highway signs, just old wooden storefronts, rusty cars frozen in cracked asphalt, and a faint hum of neon even though half the buildings looked empty. We parked, or maybe we simply stood there, but somehow we found ourselves at a diner. The neon open sign hung limply, buzzing faintly. Inside, the smell of grease and coffee hit me first. Then I noticed the figures. Every booth was filled. Men in flannel, women with beehive hairdos, a family of 4. But none of them moved. They just sat there, Plates of half-eaten food, burgers long gray with mold, fries brittle and dry, coffee cups filled with dark congealed sludge. Their faces were waxy, pale, eyes open, unblinking. Mark whispered, "Holy God!" Behind the counter, a waitress turned slowly. Unlike the others, she moved. Her mouth curled into a smile too sweet to be trusted. "Sit anywhere you like," she said. Her voice slid across the room, and suddenly the figures in the booths shifted. Not much, just a blink, a twitch of the mouth, but all at once. Mark tugged my arm. "We're leaving." But my body didn't want to move. Something about that waitress's smile rooted me. My legs felt submerged in thick syrup. Then the jukebox by the wall clicked on by itself. The music wasn't a song. It was static. Voices layered into something like rhythm, like chanting. The waitress leaned forward behind the counter, resting her chin on her hands. Her eyes gleamed, not pupils, not irises, just glowing yellow circles, like headlights. She said quietly, "The road is hungry, and it already knows your names." That broke me. I bolted, dragging Mark with me. We stumbled out of the diner and onto the street. At once, every neon sign in the ghost town lit up at once. Bright, blazing, flickering symbols, spelling something I couldn't read, but felt in the pit of my stomach. The air grew hot. The asphalt rippled like liquid. We ran until the town vanished behind us. 1 second we were surrounded by glowing signs and dead figures. Next, it was gone. Just desert again. Empty. Silent. But I could still hear that jukebox static in my head. The desert stretched eternal. The car appeared to us again, on the side of the road, waiting. Not parked. We didn't find it. It just was there, like we had never lost it at all. Mark refused to drive. His hand shook too much. I took the wheel. Somewhere outside Bakersfield, we saw her. A woman on the roadside, hitchhiking. She wore a red coat that looked old, stained with dust, and her hair fell like black water across her shoulders. Her thumb pointed outward, her face hidden by shadow. Mark hissed, "Don't stop, don't you dare." But my hands betrayed me. I slowed. The Impala rolled to a stop beside her. She climbed into the back seat without a word. The air turned cold. For miles, she said nothing, just sat there. I could see her in the rear-view mirror, but something was wrong. In the mirror, she smiled. Wide, wide, enough to split her cheeks. But when I turned my head to look at her directly in the seat, she wasn't smiling. Her face was expressionless. Finally, Mark snapped. He turned around and yelled, "What the hell are you?" Her eyes lifted. Just once she spoke. "Almost there." And then she was gone. Not stepped out, not opened the door, just gone. The seat was empty, but the smell of iron remained. When I looked back at the road, a sign had appeared ahead. One I know wasn't there before. It read, "End of the road, 12 miles." We didn't want to follow it, but something about that road, like gravity, forced us on. Our attempts to turn off, to take a side highway, always looped back. 12 became 11, 10, 9. We climbed into the mountains, dark pine forests wrapping us in shadows. Mist rolled across the road like smoke. At mile marker 4, a deer appeared, or something that looked like one. Its antlers were too long, curling and twisting like gnarled branches. Its eyes burned red. It stared, and then it spoke.
Not out loud, not really, but inside my head. Every word throbbed with pain. You don't belong on this road, but now you cannot leave. That shadow staggered into the headlights and collapsed. By the time we moved forward, there was nothing there. I couldn't breathe. Mark was muttering to himself again and again, like a prayer or a curse. Not real, not real, not real. But it was real, very real. Because with every passing mile, the trees began to change. No longer pines. They bent, bone white, like skeleton fingers stretching toward the sky, and the road sloped downward, sharper, deeper, as though it was leading into a part of the world where it should never go. At mile 0, we reached it. A tunnel carved into the mountain. No lights, no markings, just a black mouth gaping open. Above the entrance it read, "Once you pass through, the road ends." Mark grabbed my hand. "We don't have to do this. We can turn back." But both of us knew the truth. The road would not let us turn back. The Impala rolled forward on its own, headlights tutting into blackness that swallowed them completely. The air grew heavy, crushing. Inside the tunnel, the radio clicked on. The whispers returned, but this time, they weren't warnings. They were laughter. "Almost there," they hissed. "Almost." And ahead, something flickered, a figure standing in the road. A moment later, I realized who it was. It was me. The tunnel seemed far longer than it should have been. We had been driving for minutes, yet the air grew heavier, thicker, as if we weren't moving at all. And it was still there, my other self. Same jacket, same torn jeans, same face, but its eyes, hollow, black pits that swallowed the headlights whole. Mark whispered, "Oh God, it's you, Jacob." The thing didn't move, didn't even breathe. It just waited. The car stopped on its own. I tried to turn the wheel, to reverse, but the engine was dead. The other me tilted its head slightly, as though checking how much humanity it needed to borrow. Then its mouth opened. "You already knew. This road doesn't go to California. It doesn't go anywhere." Mark shouted, "Leave us alone!" But it ignored him. Its eyes never left me. This road doesn't create anything. It destroys nothing. It only copies. That is all it has ever wanted. My blood ran cold, because in that instant, I understood the gas stations, the motel, the diner, even the hitchhiker. They weren't places, weren't people. They were copies, test runs. The road was building something, building us, and it was almost complete. Suddenly, Mark bolted from the car. He swung the tire iron from the trunk and struck the thing down. The skull split, but no blood spilled. Instead, black tar splattered onto the asphalt, hissing like acid. It staggered, then widened its smile. Its body twisted, bones cracking as it stretched longer, thinner, my face still on it. Mark screamed at me to run, but the tunnel walls groaned inward like ribs breaking and folding shut. There was no escape. The creature leapt. That scream, I will never forget. It cut off too soon. The iron clattered to the ground. When I looked again, Mark was gone. Only his outline was left, burned black into the wall, as if the stone itself had absorbed him. The radio whispers swelled into a chorus, and now they were all in Mark's voice. The creature shrank again, reshaping into me. Same clothes, same voice, a faint smile,
You don't have to fight. Just let it finish. You'll be safe. No more hunger. No more fear. Shivering, I whispered, "What if I say no?" The tunnel lights flickered, though there had never been lights. In that flicker, I saw them, dozens of faces, pressed into the stone walls, silent, blinking eyes, mouths frozen open. Every traveler who had ever come here, hundreds, maybe more, and in the reflection of the windshield, I saw myself among them, already pale, already hollow. For the first time, my double stepped closer. It raised a hand, fingers just like mine, only clean, unscarred. "Just stop running," it whispered. The Impala roared back to life, headlights blazing. Ahead, a new road shimmered inside the tunnel, promising release. Behind me, the walls groaned, the faces screamed, silentless, yet louder than anything I'd ever heard. I clamped my hands to the wheel. Instinct screamed, if I drive forward, I join them. If I refuse, I may die here. But perhaps death was better than being copied forever. I slammed down the accelerator. Not forward, not toward the thing. Backwards. The car lurched, tires screeched. The headlights lit nothing but darkness. The tunnel howled, alive, tearing itself apart. It screamed, not in my voice now, but something monstrous, feral. Its claws racked across the hood. The windshield fractured, but the Impala kept surging backwards, faster, harder, until blinding light.
I don't know how, but I was outside, back on the open road. Morning sunlight hit my eyes so bright I had to squint. Birds actually chirped. For the first time in what felt like weeks, the air smelled real. Pine, dust, and gasoline. The tunnel wasn't behind me, just empty road winding through mountains. No trace of it ever existing. But the passenger seat was empty. Mark was gone. Forever. That was 2 years ago. I made it to California eventually, but it didn't feel like victory. I drifted for months. I drank too much, slept too little. Because sometimes I see signs that weren't there before. Old gas stations glowing in the night, a flicker of neon that leads nowhere. And sometimes, inside those reflections, I swear I still see him. Mark, scratching his neck, smiling wrong. I don't believe I escaped. Not really. I think the road let me go. For now. Because every night, in the static of the radio, I still hear my own voice, whispering to me, saying, "Almost there." If you ever find yourself driving through America at night, if you ever see a gas station not marked on your map, or a motel that looks too old for this century, or a diner where the jukebox only plays static, do not stop. Don't even slow down, because the road doesn't want all of us, just enough. And maybe you'll be next. When I finally did reach California, it wasn't the beach sunsets or palm trees I'd once imagined. It was gray fog drifting through San Francisco streets, people rushing by unaware of the shadows I carried. For months, I tried to live like it never happened. Got a job checking IDs at a downtown club, rented a room above a laundromat. The kind of life where no one asks where you came from. But I couldn't outrun the road. Small things at first. My alarm clock flickering to 3:07 a.m. too often. The exact minute Mark screamed in that motel. My reflection in mirrors lagging half a second behind me, like it had its own choices to make. And the static. Radios, cell phones, even TVs left unplugged, I still hear it.
Always the same whisper underneath, slow and calm. Almost there. One night while scrolling news sites half drunk, I found a story that made my stomach hollow out. 2 hikers had gone missing along an old byway in Utah. Their car was found abandoned, but not broken. Police reports released one detail they couldn't explain. The windshield was covered with handprints, dozens of them, pressed from the inside. I knew then. The road hadn't stopped. It wanted more. He came to me in a dream first, or maybe it wasn't a dream. I was standing in the middle of an empty interstate, the yellow lines glowing brighter than headlights. Mark stood there too, smiling, his neck still raw where he scratched that night. He said, "Why'd you leave me?" My throat locked. "I tried to save you," he said. "You drove away." His voice was soft, wet, like the sound of tar dripping. In the distance, I heard an engine roar. Headlights appeared. A black Impala, identical to mine, rolling down the center line. When I woke, my hands were covered in oil, black, sticky, smelling of burnt rubber. It isn't just the mountains or deserts anymore. I've seen it in cities now. In Los Angeles, I picked up what looked like a normal rideshare passenger, a woman in a red coat. My stomach dropped instantly. I knew her, the hitchhiker. But this time she wasn't smiling in the mirror. She was weeping, silent tears streaming down her face. When I blinked, she was gone, but her seatbelt was still buckled. In Seattle, I walked past a cafe where customers sat at every booth, frozen mid-bite. Same waxy faces as that diner in Nevada. The road is seeping into places it doesn't belong, places we thought were safe. And with each encounter, I feel weaker, as if every sight, every whisper is pulling thread after thread from me, unraveling what little of me is left. I started digging, old folklore, trucker legends, news clippings. Turns out, stories like mine go back as long as highways have. Ghost towns appearing and vanishing, travelers looping the same stretch of highway forever, shadow people waiting at tunnels. One diary from 1912 spoke of the gray route crossing the Midwest, a place where wagons circled miles of open prairie without leaving tracks. In 1957, a trucker named Henry Garver wrote in a log that the road built another me, before his rig was found abandoned with the cab empty. Every account ends the same: someone missing, and someone else left alive but claiming they didn't escape. The survivors? They always say the same thing, that the road doesn't end, it only waits. I don't know how much longer I can keep resisting. The whispers are louder than before. I fall asleep hearing Mark calling my name from just outside the window. Sometimes I smell gasoline inside my room, even though I don't own a car anymore. Last night, I found a receipt in my jacket pocket, the kind they print from old gas pumps. It bore no address, no business, just one word: return. Exactly like Iowa, exactly where it started. That's why I'm writing this. If anyone finds this journal, if anyone reads these words and thinks it's just horror fiction, remember this: the road preys only on those who travel blindly, who trust maps too much, or follow highways too far into the night. Do not go back roads without knowing where they lead. Don't stop where no GPS lists a station, and never, ever get in the car when you hear the static say your name. Because one day soon, the road is going to take me back. And when it does,
I don't think it'll let me write again. So, if you're reading this, if you listen closely and hear the whispers, the road already knows you. It won't be long now. Almost there. I told myself I would never drive again. After California, I got rid of the Impala, sold it for scraps, and moved farther north. My life became bus tickets, subway cars, and walking miles when I had to. No highways, no night roads. But the road doesn't need asphalt. That's what I've learned. It doesn't need America either. 6 months after writing my last confession, I tried to escape, booked a flight. I won't say where. I still hope there's some country out there the road hasn't touched. Sitting at the gate, waiting while the announcement droned overhead, I heard it again, the static. Not from a radio this time, from the intercom. A garbled burst of noise, then words slipped through. Almost there. I froze. No one else reacted. Children played, people sipped coffee, couples argued over seat numbers. Only me, hearing it, like always. And then I saw it, the arrival board listing passenger names. Mine was wrong, not Jacob Hale. The board flashed and flickered until it read, Jacob Return, the exact word from that Iowa receipt. I switched plans, took a cross-country train instead. I thought maybe steel tracks and crowded cars would keep me safe. At first, it worked. The cities passed by, Portland, Eugene, Sacramento, normal landscapes, normal people. For a moment, I almost believed I'd outrun the curse. Then, one night near the Sierra Nevadas, I walked between cars when I saw him. Mark, sitting by the window. He wore the same flannel shirt from Nevada, the same torn jeans, his face half shadowed by the moonlight rushing past. When I stumbled in shock, he smiled, soft, calm, as if we were still just two friends on a road trip. Almost there, he whispered. I blinked. He was gone, but the seat was still warm where he had been. In San Francisco, I met a man, a trucker from Poland, through a survivor's forum online. He told me about a highway outside Krakow where entire buses vanished into fog tunnels. A woman from Brazil spoke of a road between Sao Paulo and Santos where the signs shift, leading drivers onto loops until they find themselves in towns they can't locate on any maps. An Australian miner swore that a stretch of dirt track in the outback carried the same pale-faced attendants, always waiting, always smiling. That's when it dawned on me, it isn't just America. The road is everywhere. Different shapes, same hunger. And maybe it isn't even a road. Maybe it's something older. A network of paths the earth itself remembers, veins that carry us where it wants. The dream keeps coming, stronger each time. I'm back in the Impala, Mark's in the passenger seat, the hitchhiker in the back. The diner waitress serves coffee in motion, balancing the cup while the car barrels down the endless yellow line. They all chant together, "Return, return, return." I wake up with asphalt under my fingernails, my sheets smell of gasoline, and when I check my bank account, every withdrawal prints from towns I've never visited, places that don't exist. I can feel it tightening around me now. The road doesn't whisper. It sings. Loud. Constant. Even when I shove plugs into my ears. Everywhere I look, I see it. Highways bending into places they shouldn't exist. Side streets stretching longer than memory. Even sidewalks at night feel like openings waiting to trap me. There's no point trying to escape. The others I've read about, The survivors, they all circle back eventually. There's only one way left. I've bought another car. Not an Impala this time, but something different, something forgettable. And I've decided to drive, to follow whatever sign appears, no matter where it leads. Not to run, but to meet it. If the road wants me, it can have me. But I'll leave these words behind, hoping someone else finds them, hoping maybe awareness is resistance. If you see me out there one night, driving down a highway that never ends, don't stop me, don't wave, don't follow. Because by then, it won't be me anymore. It'll be the road, wearing my face. And I'll smile wide and whisper the only words that ever mattered. Almost there. The day I decided to surrender to it, the sky looked wrong. Not stormy, not bright, just colorless, like the world had been drained of paint and left in shadows of gray. I gassed up the car at a station I'd never seen before, though it sat only 2 miles outside my apartment. Same pale attendant, same hollow grin. And on the receipt, as always, that single word burned through the paper. Return. By then, I no longer felt fear, only resignation. My hands shook less than they used to. Maybe this is what happens when you've been hunted long enough. You stop running, because running is still a form of being caught. I drove east first, toward Nevada again, out of instinct. But each road bent and folded upon itself, maps refusing to align with the reality outside the windshield. Street signs flickered like hallucinations. Main Street became Return Road. Route 66 markers melted into crude symbols painted in red. No matter which way I turned, every arrow pointed the same direction.
Somewhere in the desert, I found them. Others. 3 cars in a row, parked on the shoulder, figures standing beside them, pale and silent. Drivers, passengers, all familiar, because they were all me. Different versions, slightly altered, one with longer hair, one older with a beard, one in clothes I didn't recognize. Each stared back with the same tired eyes. The tallest one stepped forward, his voice cracked dryly as though scraped across sand. We are the ones who said yes. You're the last who said no. My throat went tight. What happens when I say yes too? They smiled in unison. Then the road is complete. I drove with them, 4 cars, black silhouettes cutting across empty land. No markers, no GPS, just endless pavement stretching down into a horizon that grew darker the further we went. The sky flattened into black, constellations rearranging themselves into road signs. I swear the stars themselves formed arrows, leading us downward. It didn't feel like America anymore, or Earth, just space unraveling into lanes of light. At last we came to it, a colossal interchange, spiraling in all directions, ramps feeding into one another like a spiderweb of glowing asphalt. At its center yawned a pit, vast, endless, alive. Every pale attendant, every diner patron, every frozen motel guest, I saw them standing along the edge, watching, waiting. Rows of faceless passengers stretching longer than sight allowed. One of the other Jacobs said quietly, "We go in and we stay. We build the road for those who drive after." And before I could argue, their cars moved forward, dropping one by one into the pit. No sound of crashing, just silence as though swallowed whole. Now it was my turn. I gripped the wheel, every second a lifetime. If I went forward, I became one of them, another ghost along this endless vein. If I crashed the car, maybe I'd die, if death was even possible here. But then a thought struck me. What if resisting wasn't an option anymore? What if the only way to fight was to become part of it, to see from inside? Mark's voice came back in that moment. Not from outside, not from the radio, but from somewhere buried in my chest. This isn't just a road, it's a story, and stories only live when someone tells them. So I drove forward, into the center, into the pit. Falling, I saw flashes of everything we'd passed, the gas station, the diner, the motel, the tunnel. Millions of copies collapsing inward, swirling like storm clouds of memory. And at the bottom, waiting, was another me, but this one smiling softly, warmly. You made it, almost there. And then, impact. Did I die? I don't think so. I woke up in my apartment this morning, same bed, same door. But outside, the street looks different. My neighborhood bends wrong, just slightly. Flatter, darker asphalt stretching farther than it should. Every car outside is black, every driver a blur of faces I almost recognize. I think I didn't escape. I think I carried it back with me. Because now when I walk outside, the ground beneath me hums faintly, pulsing like a beating heart made of asphalt. And wherever you are, when you next get behind the wheel, when you next drive at night, there's a chance you won't just be on a road, you'll be on the road. And once you're on it, once you see the signs, once you hear that soft laugh in the static, it's already too late. You know the words, almost there.